morning and welcome to Cooking for the Week, Week 4. My name is Tammy Wolf and I will be your host for Cooking for the Week. If you are new, go ahead and watch my intro so that you understand what this is about, and then you'll understand what we're doing this week. This week what I'm going to feature is I'm going to feature a bunch of breakfasts because I'm starting to run out in my freezer. So if you go to the Cooking for the Week recipe and grocery list, below this video, you'll see what we're going to be making today, and you'll see how I'm organizing it and orchestrating it so that we can only have to cook for an hour and a half for the entire week. One of the things that I'm going to feature are breakfasts. I'm going to be making about 4 different breakfasts. I'm going to be teaching you how to make MIMs, which are muffins in a minute. They're awesome, totally vegan. They do have an egg. So I guess that isn't technically vegan, but they're really fast and they're really great. Totally gluten-free, sugar-free. We're also going to be making some gluten-free pancakes. We're going to be making gluten-free waffles. I'm going to be making bread again because I ran out of bread, so I'm going to be doing that in my bread maker, which is technically breakfast, but not really. It will be for toast, but it's also for my other meals as well. I'm also going to be prepping some smoothies for the week, because my daughter and my husband love having smoothies every morning for breakfast. And sometimes we run out of time. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to prep all that stuff. In addition to that, I'm going to be making for my advanced cooks. I'm super excited because I'm going to be making a new recipe that I found called avocado truffles. They're like those little chocolate truffles that you get that are rolled in cocoa powder. I'm so excited. I'm going to try those. We're going to do that together. I'm also going to be featuring cashew cheese sauce. This is something that my in-laws gave me as a recipe and that my sister-in-law, Whitney, who's also a yogi, she uses a lot. And I would say she makes it probably every other week. There's a lot of variations with this cashew cheese sauce. It's totally vegan, gluten-free, sugar-free, of course. And it's really, really nice in lots of ways. So I'm going to make that and talk about a couple of variations. I'm going to go ahead and make some snacks. Of course, I'm always going to make my nutritional yeast popcorn for my kids. I'm going to be prepping my kids' lunches, just some little lunches for the week. And then I'm going to be doing what's called a Mongolian grill. I'm going to be prepping Mongolian grill for the week. I'm going to show you what I'm doing, and I'm going to talk to you about the variations so that you can have a bunch of different dinners using this base of Mongolian grill stir fry as your base. So anyway, let's go ahead, let's get started. In order to begin, I want you to know that right now what I have boiling, like usual, I'm going to be making orzo pasta salad for my husband and I for lunches, as well as leftovers. So that's going to be a base. So I'm going to start that boiling over here on my stove. I'm also going to start getting a bunch of eggs, about a dozen, boiling on my stove because we all love hard-boiled eggs throughout the entire week. So that's what's starting over here. In the meantime, I'm going to make my popcorn and I'm going to start my bread also. So remember, cooking for the week is getting a bunch of stuff done, but in an efficient way so that you're only having to cook for about an hour and a half on a Sunday. So let's start. Boiling water for our eggs, boiling water for our pasta, getting our popcorn going, and also starting our bread in the bread machine. Okay. Couple of things really quickly. I wanted to tell you I forgot about one of our breakfast items. I'm going to be making teff. I'm going to try to bring this close so you can see it. Teff. Teff is a grain, gluten-free grain from Ethiopia. It is huge in calcium and also iron. And when I cook it for breakfast, it's almost like I'm cooking it for an oatmeal type of breakfast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this entire thing in, and I'm not sponsored by Bob's Bread Mill. None of the things that I use I'm sponsored by yet. Anyway, I just want to tell you what I use and what ingredients I'm using so that you can use it too. So anyway, I get this teff. I'm using the entire bag, and I'm going to boil it over here just like I would oatmeal. So it's a little bit different because it's different than oatmeal. So I got this going to a boil for about 6 minutes. Now I've got it turned down and I'm going to let it cook for 10 more. What happens is it cooks, but it gets really hard. So when I let it cool, then I can kind of scoop it into chunks And each chunk is about this big, about the size of a big handful. And after it's cooled, I scoop it into chunks and put those chunks into a Ziploc, and I close it and I stick it in the freezer. Then what I do is whenever I want to have like an oatmeal type breakfast with teff, which has this awesome nutty flavor, I love teff, I take out a chunk and I put it into a strainer, like a little sieve, because it's teeny tiny little seeds, so, or grain, and it'll just go right through if you have like a pasta strainer. So you need to use a sieve, and then you put it in there and you just defrost it by running boiling hot water over it. Then you can put that into its own bowl, and you add a little bit of hemp milk, a little bit of maple syrup. I always put some walnuts in there and a couple of fresh berries, and it's like having oatmeal in the morning, except that teff is super good for you. Some oats are gluten-free. You always have to check. This is gluten-free. It's a grain. It's high in calcium and iron. Anyway, so I'm cooking that too. So let's just recap really quickly. I am making bread, and my sister-in-law was asking me, what bread do you always make? So this is for you. I use Pamela's bread mix. It is non-dairy, multi-purpose, and it is gluten-free. And so I use this. I've talked about this before, but one whole bag makes me about 5 loaves. And if you're looking at gluten-free, wonderful, non-dairy bread in the grocery store, you're talking $7, $8 a loaf. And this is super cost effective. This brings that cost down to about $4 a loaf. So it's really great. And who doesn't love smelling fresh bread? So I've got my fresh bread going. I've got my teff bubbling. And I'm going to go ahead and I've cooled my eggs. And I've also rinsed my orzo pasta for later. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make popcorn. And I'm going to start prepping for making my waffles for the mornings. So let's go ahead and get that ready too. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna make waffles. Again, I'm using Pamela's baking and pancake mix. Not sponsored by Pamela's. I just love it. So if you're wondering what I'm using this. And so I'm gonna double the recipe, and I'm gonna make a ton of waffles, and I'm gonna freeze them, and then the kids are just gonna take one out, pop it into the toaster, do that to get it ready in the morning, and then they're going to top it with some fresh maple syrup from my parents' property in Wisconsin, by the way, and also some berries. So let's go ahead and get this going. I'm using the recipe on the back, which calls for 1.5 cups of the mix, and remember, I'm going to double it, so we're going to go ahead and put that in there. And I like a little bit of cinnamon flavoring in it, so I'm going to put just a little bit of cinnamon in here too. I'm going to go ahead and add my eggs and my water and a little bit of my coconut oil, and I'm going to get those started. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to be making those while I'm doing other things. Remember, this is all about efficiency. So let's get it started first and get it mixed. So there we go. I'm going to start my waffles. My teff is almost done. I'm just going to let it cool. My eggs are totally done. I think I already said that. I made my popcorn with nutritional yeast right here. I know you've seen that before, so I didn't think you needed to see it again in this episode. Remember, nutritional yeast is so yummy and tastes buttery. And I use an air popper so that it's just super pure with salt. Now what we're gonna do while I'm continuing to make waffles is I'm gonna go ahead and get out all the ingredients. Oh, there's my timer for my tef. I'm gonna get all my ingredients to make pre-made smoothies for my husband and my daughter. So I'm gonna get that all ready, and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna lay that out and what I put into it, so that those are also something that's a super great quick breakfast for the morning. And we'll be right back. Okay, so we've got waffles going. I also want you to know that one of the things that I do about every 2 to 3 weeks is I'm keeping my kombucha going. And so on my recipe page, I have my recipe for kombucha. And so that's back here, and it looks so pretty, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. The next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get these smoothies ready for the morning. And I want you to know that the things and the ingredients that I have in this smoothie, my husband and I looked up when he was running half and full marathons because he was having lots of inflammation. And so the supplements that are in these smoothies are for inflammation. So if you are someone who is feeling that you've got some of that going on in your body, this will be so great for you to have every morning. What I'm gonna add is I've got a berry mix here, a frozen berry mix. I've also got ground flaxseed. All of these things except for the berries, I'm gonna put in 1/4 teaspoon into every single bag. So ground flax seeds, hemp seeds, maca powder, and some chia seeds. Then with that, I'm gonna put 1/2 cup of the mixed berries in here. I'm gonna put 1/2 of an organic banana in here, put all that together, I'm gonna put them in Ziplocs, and I'm gonna freeze them. Then what's gonna happen is my husband or my daughter, because they share the smoothies in the morning, they pop one of these out into our Vitamix, and they either add hemp milk or they add some orange juice. And so that's how they make their smoothies in the morning. So I'm gonna get these going while we've got some waffles cooking. My tef is cooling and my bread is going. So let's go ahead and start these. So, friends and viewers, just in case you're wondering what makes one of my systems so efficient, is that I do a lot of assembly style cooking so that it goes really quickly. So I thought that would be important to note. So I've also put frozen mango chunks in here too. So I put all of my fruit in. This is more than a cup. I would say it's about 1.5 cups of fruit. I put all my fruit in, then I'm gonna put in all my bananas. I don't assemble these one at a time. I go ahead and assemble them in an assembly line style. So you can see I've got all of my fruit and mango pieces in here. Then I go ahead and put in my halves of bananas, and then I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna put in my 1/4 teaspoons of all of this stuff. But I'm not gonna go ground flax, maca, chia seeds. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go flax, 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 then maca, 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 then chia seed, chia seed, chia seed, chia seed, and then I'm gonna go hemp, 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 hemp. So that's how it goes, and that's what makes it go really fast. So if you're wondering how I'm so efficient with my time, a lot of it is because I do this assembly style cooking. So just wanted to point that out as we're assembling our smoothies for the week. Okay, so now I have all of my smoothies assembled, and I want to introduce you to a very good friend of mine called Min's, Muffin in a Minute. On my recipe attachment, I have how to make these in bulk, but right now I want to show you how to make one at a time. Muffin in a Minute is amazing. It's one of my most favorite muffins. Now, this is for people who are gluten-free and sugar-free. This isn't vegan because it has an egg. These are amazing. What you do is you take 1/4 cup of ground flaxseed. Then you're gonna take 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. You're gonna go ahead and add 1 egg to this. You're gonna go ahead and add in a little sprinkle of cinnamon. A tiny bit of sweetener of choice, and I like maple syrup, so I'm gonna go ahead and put in a half teaspoon of maple syrup. And then you need to go ahead and put in 1 teaspoon of oil of choice. So I'm gonna use coconut oil. I'm gonna add all this together. Now the reason that it's called Muffin in a Minute, and I'm not a big microwave fan. However, if you are in a pinch, this is amazing. So I'm mixing it all together, and please notice that I'm mixing it together in a mug. I'm gonna mix all of this together. If you want to, you can go ahead and quadruple this recipe and evenly distribute it into greased muffin tin and bake it at 350 for about 15 minutes. And then you can have a whole bunch of these. This is what I have. I have a whole bunch of these that I baked instead of microwave, and I've got them in a Ziploc in the freezer. And then I have muffins. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this in the microwave for 1 minute, and I'm gonna show you what this looks like when it pops out. These are awesome muffins. Now, if you're expecting some big, huge, ridiculous blueberry muffin that you can get at Costco, this is not gonna taste like that. But it has so many amazing things for you in it, and they're really easy to make with all of these really good ingredients. That's why it's called a min. So, as soon as that's done, I'm gonna pop it out and I'm gonna show you what it looks like. We like our Mims with, sometimes with peanut butter and sliced banana. Sometimes we like our Mims with almond butter and a little bit of jam. Sometimes they're really good with butter and nutritional yeast as well. So when this is finished, I'm gonna go ahead and show you how it pops right out and how I go ahead and eat it. My microwave said it's done, so watch how fun this is. It pops right out, okay? And it looks just like the cup. See how it's like round and funny? It smells so good. I'm gonna cut it in half, so now I have these 2 little round halves. And I'm gonna take my peanut butter, because I like peanut butter. And I'm gonna put it on there. And I guess, you know, in cooking shows, people are supposed to like show the audience them eating their own stuff. Probably sick because you don't trust me and you don't think what I'm making is good. So anyway, here's that moment of me eating something that I made, and it's so yummy. I love these. They're amazing. So this is gonna be what I'm munching on because it's morning time and I haven't had my breakfast yet. So I'm gonna munch on this while I continue to cook for you. I am totally done with my waffles. The last 2 are cooking right now. I've got a big stack of them back here. Once they cool, I'm gonna go ahead and package them up so that they can be frozen. The next thing that I'm gonna work on while I'm eating my Mim is I am gonna start working on my husband and my lunch for the week, which is the orzo pasta salad. And I'm gonna show you everything that I'm putting in it. Then I'm gonna make those amazing avocado truffles that I was talking about for dessert. And then I'm gonna prep what I'm doing for the week for dinners, and I'm super excited about it. It's that Mongolian grill style of stir fry. So we're gonna start working on all of that right now. Okay, here we go. So I've got our orzo pasta totally cooled. It's so cute, it looks like rice. I love this stuff. I've got a dressing going right here for this, and the dressing has lime juice and oil of choice. I'm using coconut oil. I also have turmeric in here, and I have salt and pepper. Fun fact, when you're trying to blend things together and have them emulsify, if you add just a little tiny bit of mustard powder to it, it will emulsify. So if you're ever having salad dressings that keep separating because you've got some kind of oil vinegar mixture, you add a tiny bit of mustard powder and mix it together, and it will emulsify. So what I'm gonna add with this is, first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and put in my dressing because I want it to loosen up that pasta a little bit so that it's easier for me to mix everything else. And I'm just mixing it up right here. Then what I'm gonna add is, a few weeks ago, I showed you how to make your own cheese. And so I have frozen that cheese, and I've just let it sit out and defrost. So isn't that so pretty? The turmeric gives it such a nice color. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my goat cheese that I made, and I'm gonna mix it in there right here like this, just nice and gentle. I've already washed my spring onion, and so don't forget how awesome kitchen scissors are. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut this up with my kitchen scissors and put it right in there. This is gonna be super simple. And I have a black olive puree. It's basically, I took black olives and stuck them in the Vitamix with some water. That's it. So I'm gonna add this to this. What you can do is add sun-dried tomatoes if you want to make it have some color. And I'm just gonna have it be like this. I'm gonna add my black olive puree, and that's gonna be our lunch for like maybe the whole week. I'm gonna individually package it. That's what we're gonna have. Super excited, and it's really good. You can always add a little salt and pepper more to taste if you want to. So I'm gonna add that in. I'm gonna show you what it looks like. We're gonna move on to our truffles. Okay, I'm super excited. I'm gonna make our chocolate truffles out of avocado. I've never done it before. So I'm gonna see how this works. I think it's gonna be great. I want you to know that what I'm doing is I'm adding 4 squares of Baker's unsweetened chocolate to a pan, and I just have it on low. I'm gonna let those melt down really slowly. I'm not doing it in a double boiler. While that is melting down, I'm gonna go ahead and just take 1 avocado, and this is a little avocado, so I might use 2. And I'm gonna go ahead and scoop it out right here, and I'm gonna mash it while my chocolate is melting. So that's what I'm gonna do right here, is I'm squeezing out my avocado and I'm gonna mash it. I think I'm gonna use another one because looking at this one, I can tell that it's not gonna yield enough for what I think I need. If it was a big avocado, I think it would be okay, but I'm gonna use 2. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add, and you can look at the recipe that I have attached below. I'm gonna go ahead and add sweetener of choice, a little bit of my homemade vanilla extract. I have featured that in a different episode. So if you're wondering about that, you can find that in a different episode. It's basically organic vanilla bean, scraping out the seeds and then mixing it to vodka. It lasts for a very long time. And then I'm gonna add, so I have my avocado, I'm gonna add some sweetener, I'm gonna add a little bit of vodka, tiny little dash of cinnamon. I'm gonna mix this all together. As soon as my chocolate is done, I'm gonna mix all of that together, put it in the fridge to cool. I'm gonna check on it in about 20 minutes. It should cool pretty quickly. Then I'm gonna take them and make them into tiny little balls and roll them in cocoa powder and set them aside, put them back in the fridge, and I'm gonna have my truffles done. So maybe that's something I will have to taste test as the cook and let you know how yummy it is. So here we go. We're gonna add all of this together. Okay, my chocolate is done, and I'm gonna go ahead and grab it and add it to my avocado mixture. I do want you to know that I added just a little bit of coconut oil to it because I didn't, to my chocolate, because I didn't want it to burn. A double boiler would probably work better, but honestly, this melted pretty quickly and pretty easily. It's pretty hot too. So I'm adding this to my avocado mixture. And then, Sorry to leave you for a second. Remember, we're going to go ahead and put this into the fridge. And we're going to go ahead and let it harden. Look, it's already turning into a truffle mixture already. This is so exciting. I love these things. Chocolate truffles are awesome. And why not get some amazing fat from the avocado in this with hardly any need for all sorts of sugars and all sorts of things in here, or flour. This is definitely vegan. Gluten-free, sugar-free, vegan. I'm going to give it just a little taste. And if I need it just a little bit sweeter, I'm going to add some more of my maple syrup. So I'm going to add quite a bit more, actually. The recipe that I found asked for stevia, which if you ever played around with stevia, you know a few drops go a really long way. I'm not a big fan. I don't really like the way it tastes. I know that it's better for you than a lot of artificial sweeteners that are out there, but for me, it just kind of leaves this weird leftover taste in my mouth. But if you're a stevia fan, I would definitely do that and put in some drops of stevia to this to make it nice and sweet. Here we go. Perfect. So I'm just going to smooth this up, pop it in the fridge, and we will revisit this in just a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is get some things ready for my Mongolian grill. I'm going to put all those out. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, how I'm going to package it, and I'm going to talk about what I have on the recipe page for cooking for the week of what you can do with this huge amount of vegetables that I'm going to be cooking for Mongolian grill. So stay tuned for that. We're also going to make our own butter to go with our homemade bread. So I'm going to show you how to do that as well. And then I'm going to check my notes, but I think that we're done with cooking for the week after that is finished. So stay tuned. Okay, the idea behind Mongolian grill is this. We are going to have a ton of veggies. Right now I just have tomatoes and kale and purple cauliflower to give it color. I have this amazing, I can't remember the name of this cabbage. I'll have to look it up. I'll put it in my recipe. I've got organic asparagus spears right here. Sorry, I just had my own thought for a minute. And then I've got this celery sticks. I also have an onion that I'm going to chop up. I've got a bunch of mushrooms. The sky is the limit with this. I'm going to chop all of this up. Then what we're going to do for our dinner is I'm going to have all these bowls out with all of these different things like lemon juice and lime juice and a little thing of minced garlic and a little thing of minced ginger. I'm also going to have some toppings like pepitas and some sesame seeds. I'm also going to have some meats to grill, and if you're a vegetarian, you could use tofu instead. But I'm going to have a couple of different, I'm going to have chicken, I'm going to have a marinated chicken and tamari. I'm also going to have steak cut up nice and little. Sorry, I've got a fly in here. Life isn't perfect. Anyway, I'm going to have all these things out, and the kids and my husband and myself, we're going to go ahead and take a bowl, and we're going to put everything in it that we want. And the idea behind this is that then in my wok, whatever is the meat, I'm going to cook it first, and then I dump everything else in with the tamari or the lemon juice or both or whatever people want. Stir fry it up, and that's what we're going to have for dinner. But I'm going to have this huge surplus of veggies, ton. So every night this week, I'm going to have something different for dinner with all those veggies. So tomorrow, I'm planning on having shrimp tacos with all of those veggies. And then we'll just use those veggies and put them in there. I'm planning on having a big salad. I also have a chicken that I want to roast in there. So I'm going to have a chicken with a big bunch of fried, stir-fried veggies on the side with that as well. That's all on the recipe page that accompanies this. So even though this is Mongolian grill stir-fry style for tonight, all of this is going to last me a really long time. And right now then, I've prepped it all for the week. So let's get to prepping all of this. Okay. Wow, that was a lot of chopping. I have so many veggies set aside for Mongolian grill and the week. So what I want to show you now is how to make your own butter. So right here, I've got heavy whipping cream, organic. I also have literally ice water. So what you do, and it's so simple and it's so yummy, is you're gonna go ahead and pour this all in here. I am gonna go ahead and blend it with my Vitamix on high until it starts to like clump. And then a little bit at a time, I'm gonna add ice water and it'll clump more and more and more and more. Then I'm gonna pour out the excess water. I'm gonna put it into a container. I'm gonna mix it with salt. I have a little bit of salt right here. And I'm done with butter. So let's go ahead and start. Okay, friends, I want you to see what's happening. When I paused it for you there, it was only maybe 2 minutes. It was just so I could clean up that mess. So here's what happened. I also got another cup of ice water. And here's what's going on. I'm gonna try to show you. Right here, I hope you can see, right here, it's separating now finally. We are almost done with making butter. So I'm gonna do this just a little bit more, add a little bit more ice, and then I'm gonna scoop it out and I'm gonna show you. The water just separates right out. So I'm gonna keep going so that you can see how this is going. Okay, so here we go. So add ice water. I'm done. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna separate this out and I've got butter and it's so neat. So on the top of this, I have whipped cream, okay? And if I were to add some vanilla and a little bit of salt, that would taste amazing. And right here, we've got our butter. So I'm gonna try to separate it for you so you can see. See all that milky water? And then on the top is our butter. So I have a sieve right here in the sink waiting for me. So I've got that inside of a colander and I'm gonna separate it out and let that water separate from the butter. I'm gonna bring it over and I'm gonna show you what it looks like. So just stay here for a second. Here we go. So this is what it looks like. It's all the water separated out of it and I'm gonna keep pushing on it. You can see the water coming through. In my sink, it would just be draining, but here it's gonna go on my cloth. And look at that butter. Isn't that beautiful? It is the most lovely butter and it tastes so good. I'm literally gonna add a pinch of salt to this and mix it in. I'll do that right here while you're watching. So I'm gonna go like that and I'm gonna mix it into my butter just to give it a little bit. I love unsalted butter, I love it. But when I make homemade butter, I like having just a little bit of salt added to my butter, just a little to give it some flavor. There's another tiny pinch. So here we go. And how awesome is this gonna be when we add it to and have a little bit of this spread onto our homemade bread today. So here we go. You can see it's forming into a butter ball. And so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna divide this out and do a couple of different. Hi, and welcome to Urban Homesteader Cooking for the Week, Week 4. I am your host, Tammy Wolf, and right now I am currently rolling my avocado truffle mix into my cocoa powder, and I am making the most decadent desserts that you can imagine. Behind me, you can see everything for Cooking for the Week for this week. I'm going to give you a tour, and I hope that you watch the full video below to see how to put all of this together. Have an awesome week and enjoy your cooking. Okay, this week I have just a few of the things out that we are featuring for our Mongolian grill, Cooking for the Week. I also have here my homemade butter that we made. I've got the avocado truffles right here. I taught you how to make Mims, which are so good when you have a little cup of coffee in the morning. I made orzo pasta for lunches for my husband and myself. I made another batch of kombucha. Right here we've got homemade waffles, a whole stacks and stacks and stacks of them for breakfast for the week. Behind it I have our pre-made, ready to go anti-inflammatory smoothie mixes. Of course, we've got our popcorn with nutritional yeast. Here, steaming in this bag, is our Tef breakfast cereal, and of course, our snacks. Not featured is the bread that is still baking in the oven. I hope that you tune in this week for Cooking with the Week Urban Homesteader. Have a great week.